Well, let's speak now to independent analyst Khaya Sithole, who joins us for more on what we can expect ahead of that March 12 date. Mr. Sithole, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. We've been listening to Ishmael Momoniet, the Treasury advisor, who says by October, South Africa could well be off the grey list if all goes well. How significant a development would that be for the country's economy?
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers. So I think it would obviously be a very important development if we are able to get off the grey list. It's not desirable. No one wants to be on a grey list, particularly given the intersectional consequences relating to how the ease of doing business with other international stakeholders. So if we are able to get off the list by October, it will be a very welcome development. But obviously, the pathway towards getting there is a very tricky one. And I think the fact that we still have these outstanding items just indicates how difficult it has been to essentially react proactively enough to be able to convince the panel that we've done enough to be able to be removed from the list.
Yeah. Khaya Sithole, we also joined in this conversation by Victor Kgomoeswana, who also is an independent analyst. Mr. Kgomoeswana, good evening to you, and thanks for your time. We are discussing the Financial Action Task Force report, at least the latest, that says we only have 2 items remaining. And this is particularly interesting for you because you recently penned an article suggesting that if South Africa can act in this way, can be as decisive on the issues that put us on the grey list, why then is it that it's dragging its feet on other matters? Let's address those other matters.
Right. Good evening, Oli, and good evening, Khaya. 2 gentlemen I respect. Yes, if we are going to prioritize the FATF, Switzerland and the US and the British and Europe, what about Deep Sloot, where we have a time bomb of too many people? 90% of South Africa is black, and the Stats SA figures show that among Africans, particularly, the unemployment rate is higher than national average, and it's even higher among African women. This is still 80% of your population. If you have that kind of a crisis, which is a much bigger threat to socio-political stability, why can't you apply the same urgency to solving that problem? It's something like this, Toli. If you go into SARS, you go into the traffic department, any department of government that collects revenue, there is efficiency, and where there's no collection of revenue, well, you're on your own, if you like. So I'm saying that if we don't prioritize those things that hold us back, especially the income inequality, because we are over 60% our Gini coefficient, we run a bigger risk, which is a much more deeper crisis than being on the grey list. And again, I want to emphasize, I do not say being on the grey list is a good thing, but I'm saying we cannot be too worried and very decisive about that than unemployment here at home, which is a bigger threat to stability on South African soil.
Yeah. Khaya Sithole, let's come back to you. And today we are talking stage 6 load shedding. The electricity minister was talking to us a short while ago, and you can hear in his voice that he is desperate to announce that the country is now officially load shedding free. But the fact is, it remains, at least for now. How big a drawback is that to what we have seen in the past months where we haven't experienced load shedding?
Well, I think it's more confusing for everybody because what you've seen in recent days, particularly over the past 300 days or so, is that the collective sum of the efforts that have been put together by government and stakeholders has enabled us to at least have some sense of predictability regarding the electricity supply. But now suddenly to shift so suddenly from stage 0 to stage 6 essentially takes us back to a time many, many months ago where Eskom quite simply had no idea about the state of its grid, where they would be as surprised as we are about what the state of load shedding would be from day to day. So it is worrying in the sense that we do not know how it could have accelerated so fast, so rapidly. But I think obviously if they aren't able to explain and identify what the source of these issues are, it means that the risk that we thought had abated largely relating to energy security is now back in full force. And that simply doesn't help in relation to the multiple other risks that we're trying to manage. So we're busy juggling too many balls at the same time.
Yeah. Victor Kgomoeswana, let's come back to you. The Minister of Finance, how worried should he be as he tries to revise the budget speech for the date of 12 March, specifically around load shedding?
Well, the question is, all the incentives that have been provided in the past to give alternative power sources, solar energy, will he need to inject more into that? Are there any other things that he can do to incentivize it getting off grid? Because I think that was something that the government was doing very well on. Now we are hearing that they are taking on smaller solar panel providers, asking them to not be illegal. I don't even know what the problem is. They are saying you must be registered with Eskom, I think, or something like that before you can operate. And again, I'm saying, why are you chasing after the small guys instead of focusing on the bigger picture? So I think load shedding, it doesn't only disturb the lighting, the smaller car wash in the township that needs the electricity to power their vacuum cleaner so they can create jobs. The people who are running small businesses that need refrigeration, people who are out there trying to take themselves off the social grants. That's where the problem is. So he should not just worry about whether he will be able to get incentives and get the power lights on, but also how is he going to provide for those people who are able to cater for themselves in the past 10 months or so, who are not going to be, or who are going to be disrupted because their livelihoods are going to be disturbed by the load shedding returning.
Yeah. Khaya, let's come back to you as we wind down the conversation. Victor pointed earlier to revenue collection, and that prompts the question that we are seeing all over the papers today, suggesting that there is a fractured relationship between the Minister of Finance and the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kgomoeswana. Is there a problem? And if there is a problem, what happens now? I think we are all worried about that particular relationship, is it not?
No, I do not think there's a problem. I think the reality here is that we are better served by having public servants and public officials who are able to stand by their convictions and be able to tell us what trade-offs are in relation to public policy making. It would be even more dangerous if we had a SARS commissioner who didn't have the ability or the latitude to be able to explain that, look, if the tax policy goes in a particular direction, here's what I will then be able to do or not do as a revenue collecting authority. I think it's an important ability for us to be able to continuously debate and interrogate these issues. Ultimately, what makes National Treasury and SARS quite unique is that they are essentially the enforcers of what the collective sum of government action plan is. So if the government says that, look, this is what we want to spend on, and the commissioners and National Treasury say, well, the only sources could be increased taxes or reduced spending, National Treasury and SARS must execute on what the government of the day says they must. Now, they are free to warn us and advise us about the future consequences of it. But if this is the government that we've elected and the government takes a particular position, their job, their mandate is to simply execute on that. So I do not think it's a problem that they have disagreements around those particular consequences. One executes on a political mandate and one executes on an operational mandate.
Yeah. Victor, if you were advising the president, how would you have him intervene between Edward Kgomoeswana and the finance minister, Enoch Godongwana?
Well, I would rub the minister on the knuckles, because you can't be caught, number one, talking with your fellow ministers about such a crucial player in your team. You know, Edward Kgomoeswana has kept SARS going, and everybody knows the stability of SARS, whether you like the commissioner or not, is paramount to the university, to the country. And therefore, to have your key minister, the most important minister, showing a total disregard and a dislike for such a member of the team, your MVP, I would pull him aside and say, listen, whatever you do, mend the relationship, because whatever budget you're going to put up, this man is going to provide over 80% of the revenue that you will need for it. You can't have that kind of an immature relationship with him.
Finally, Khaya Sithole, politics, it would seem, is what this government of national unity is going to have to navigate over the next 5 years. Talk to us about what you think should be the modus operandi whenever there are disagreements, because postponing a budget, it speaks volumes about where these partners are. Is this what we're going to have to put up with up until the 5 years is up?
No. All we need is for the president to stay true to his word. The president has been aware from the moment he put together this coalition that he needed some form of clearing mechanism that would be able to ventilate on these issues long before a particular position is taken. So the fact that he hasn't put that together over so many years lies squarely on his shoulders, because obviously it is that particular clearing mechanism that would have the mandate of then trying to essentially becoming the negotiation conduit across which all of these politically divergent parties must find some common ground before a particular position is taken. The fact that the president hasn't deemed it fit to put the structure together and he has hoped that he's simply going to be able to bulldoze his way through this GNU is now the consequence of a very, very lethargic form of leadership. So the sooner he gets it done, the better it is. But I think over the next 4 years, it will be inevitable for him that it is the only structure that is going to keep this alliance going.
Yeah. All right, Victor, you get to have the last word. Khaya makes reference to lethargic leadership. He's pointing the finger at the president. Your sense of where things are in the government of national unity?
Yeah. You know, President Ramaphosa is a skilled negotiator, or at least we know him from 1994 or pre-1994 as somebody who can cut a deal. Maybe he should pay a lot more attention, but understand that unlike 1994, he has to negotiate from a position of being a pair with some of these parties. They might be slightly ahead, but he's going to have to bring some of those negotiation skills into the picture so that we at least get reassured that the people we have elected are capable of working together. He's the one who used the words work together. He said we told them when we didn't give anybody an outright majority that they should work together. What is indicating, what everything is pointing to at the moment is that he's not able to marshal those forces. Maybe he should pay a lot more attention and make sure that he keeps people to account and teaches his fellow ministers in the ANC particularly that they should learn to negotiate now and negotiate sincerely and not imagine that one day they'll return to having 2/3 majority anytime soon. Even if they do, they are not going to do it in this government of national unity. So I would say he should rally them and say, guys, we have to work together here because we have no opportunity. We have no room to be arrogant. We have no room to be complacent. We are in this position. We have to work as equals with everybody else, the way I said when I announced the results.
Victor Kgomoeswana and Khaya Sithole, my thanks to both of you for your analysis, looking at the economy and indeed the final part, the politics that seems to influence everything that goes around.